So, first service is really good, and you know I know when I have a good run at a horse show, it's like, why don't we just take those scores and go home? You can watch it later. We could have cake. But one thing that I do want to do, I'm Kathianne Lewis, and my pronouns are she and her, and we have a table up here with a flag and candles. Because this day isn't so that we can have 3 days off. This weekend's not for 3 days off. This weekend is to remember that some people stood in the front lines for us, for people they never knew or would ever know. And they gave their life. And it still bothers me. And I want to expand that to the people who serve us, the firefighters that go into the forests when we're having forest fires, the people that take the big risks. I especially want to thank my friends, because I'm of that age, who didn't go into battle because they chose to, but because they were drafted. And we're still doing it. We still call people to fight fights. And that's what I want to stand for today, is that we have an end to that. That if people want to call a war, like call a party, then you go first. Send you and your family into the front lines, and then I bet there'd be no more wars. I want us to raise up in consciousness where we realize that all life is so precious that what we do is we take a stand for it and never against it. But that's not my talk. That's just me having a little cry fest. Sorry. Actually, I did that first service, and usually when I cry first service, it's all okay second service, but for some reason it's still bubbling up. So I want to acknowledge everyone who were in the armed forces, everyone that's been a firefighter, everyone that's been a police officer, everyone that's been on those lines, when all our lines go down and those guys go out in the middle of the night to put the things together, and they're working with big doses of electricity. Can I just say, all of those people that do these jobs for us, God bless them, and if you're one of them, stand up so we can applaud you. If you've ever been one of those, now, I'm going to say this, and I don't mean it in the Southern way. God bless your hearts. I'm from Oregon, I can say this. And it's a real blessing, although my family didn't mean it that way. Anyway, I want to talk about what a great thing you're doing for yourself, because you are here being healthier. Studies are out that people that have any sort of spiritual practice, even if it's showing up once in a while, and this is called, when we're together and you do something, when you put your attention on spirit in a group, it's called worship. So even worshiping once a week or once a month or once Twice a year, Easter, Christmas. Anyway, Easter, Christmas, Tim Brinsfield. Then any of that is healthy for you. Healthy. And I found this new study by a Dr. Lisa Miller. You can look her up if you want to, if you don't believe me. And then I would ask why not. But anyway, she said spiritual practice creates a healthy brain. She studies brains and how certain parts of the brains can be thicker or thinner, and how brains can actually be strong. Like you're here for a brain gym and you didn't even know it. She said spiritual practice creates healthy brains and helps us defend ourselves from depression, despair, addiction, and suicidal tendencies. Whoa, just spiritual practice. A spiritual practice develops into a spiritual life, which helps us recognize opportunities of goodness that are around us. Because oftentimes, if we're not strong, I thought it was just strong in spirit. It's actually now healthy in brain. If we're not strong, we don't see opportunities. How many of you know people that don't see opportunities? Because of course you do, but you've seen it in others, right? So we're here to brain build our brains. And I'm loving this because we've been studying the book by David R. Hawkins, Power versus Force. And according to Dr. Hawkins, simple spiritual practices cultivate our spiritual evolution. We are going to evolve. We're not, we can be stuck for a while, but eventually Spirit keeps just drawing us up. We continue to just somehow not be there anymore. And it draws us up into levels of consciousness. Now, I want to talk a little bit about consciousness before we go on to David Hawkins' work. I listened to a podcast, and they were interviewing a man named Charlie Johnson. And he had been a business person, successful business person. He somehow knew something was missing, and he didn't know what it was, but he found a teacher, and he started studying spirituality. And the teacher made him study all the different religions, so he realized that there was an underlying pattern, a through thread, and that no one religion was right, and that no one way of thinking was right. And he wanted to teach that consciousness, that idea, that way of living in business, because he said a lot of people get spiritual and then they're just too spiritual business. And because he was really into I could meditate all day, but he said, I want to share what I've learned with people I know in business because I know what they're going through. Is that Rose? Okay, never mind. Anyway, I heard the snap, snap, snap. I can't do that. Anyway, well, good for you. Bless your heart. Anyway, what he came to find is that consciousness is so needed in business. He is setting himself up as the consciousness officer of business. He wants to show up and train other people to be consciousness officers, like you would have an IT person, have a consciousness person. He said, because he said in a few years, businesses will wake up and want consciousness in their business as much as they want IT help in their businesses. Because you could come up with all sorts of ideas, but if the consciousness isn't there, it's just ideas. Skills and tools. He said people are making people go to retreats and meditate, but there's nothing shifting in the culture because the consciousness hasn't been addressed. So, he also said that he knows that consciousness is something whose time has come because he does speak to, business people, and he is on a lot of business podcasts. And he said 3 months ago nobody would have had me. Now he's being asked to speak people are finally getting that something big is missing, and it's consciousness. Now, one of the things I've said before is that we're going into the age of consciousness. We had the industrial age, now the information age, and now the consciousness age. Because you can have a whole lot of information and still be worthless. Some people are going, yeah. You know stuff, but you don't know what to do with that stuff. What to do with that stuff comes from consciousness. Which is what we've been looking at and what we've been talking about. And then he said, and this is really important, he said, the way to influence business is to have the consciousness officer come from neutrality. Now, let's have our slide now. We're ready for our slide. By the way, if anybody would like a copy of this, I'm pretty sure there's some at the registration table. We've been passing these out, and I didn't know that Tim would draw such a big crowd. Yay! So we would have passed them out to you. But you can see this, I hope. So I'm going to do my Vanna thing. This is all ego-based, pride and anger and desire, shame. And then we go to courage, and I think a lot of you are into courage. You're willing to, contemplate a new idea. That takes courage, by the way. Pride does not contemplate new ideas. Why? Because they already know what's right. Right? Even this, what's interesting is even the right is right. Neutrality's here. It's not way up the level. We haven't gotten to acceptance and love and joy and peace and enlightenment, but neutrality. He said neutrality is so important because it's impossible to consider ideas that might be coming in from the universe if you already know how it should be. Neutrality is so important. See, we have prejudices, and this is the brain science also. We have prejudices, which are opinions. Isn't it amazing? Emma Curtis Hawkins, a long time ago, said, every opinion isn't a prejudice. But opinion, that's fine. But a prejudice, we don't like that, right? But what that means is my opinion is true because I believe it is. And what happens in the brain is that if you have an opinion, and this is how it is, if something is out here, you can't see it or be willing to contemplate it. This is just noise that you have to defend against because it's not part of your tunnel vision. Neutrality says, I don't know. I don't have an opinion on this. Do you see how then you can contemplate all sorts of ideas? What he says is that businesses need to have that more because too many businesses believe the way they've been doing things are the way to do things. And therefore they keep doing those things. Neutrality helps us be influenced by the intelligence of universal consciousness because we're not hanging on to what we know to be true. How many of you have noticed that the longer you are on a spiritual path, the more your idea of God changes? I don't have the same God I had 5 years ago. I don't know who grew up, me or God. Now, certain things stay the same, but my ideas keep changing. Because the more I know I don't know. By the way, that's Einstein. Did you know that's Einstein? I don't need to take credit for that. But if this is what you know, then what you don't know is not very big. But if you know more, what you don't know gets bigger. And the more you know, what you don't know gets bigger and bigger. So the more you know you just don't know. Hallelujah. What a great place to be. So Einstein said you can't solve a problem at the level of a problem. I want to shift it just a little bit and talk about our mind or our brain. We can't solve a problem with the same mind that created the problem in the first place. And we can't solve a problem with the mind that's looking at the problem. Because the mind has already figured out there's a problem, and it's tried some solutions and nothing works, so it's hopeless. Do you see why neutral is beautiful? Geez, here it is. I'm open. And then divine mind can start to show up, because there is a mind greater than our mind. So what can we do to contribute to this spiritual evolution, to going into neutral, and then maybe even willingness and acceptance and reason and love and joy and peace and enlightenment? What can we do for that spiritual evolution? That's what I've been studying, because the book that I've been studying that goes along with Power versus Force is the transcending levels of consciousness. Because we will transcend, but how can I help it along? How can I participate? What can I do that makes me not so heavy? Because Spirit's lifting us up, but we can be heavy with our thoughts, our worries, our concerns, and it can be holding us down. First of all, we have to remember we aren't transformed. I think that word was tossed out there. How many of you were hit over the head with transformation a lot? A transformative workshop, I did it. I used that word like crazy. Like, go to this thing and be transformed. Do this and be transformed. If you go to Egypt, you will be just transformed, but still. Is it true? It's true. And I'll tell you what transformation means and why I try not to use it anymore. Transformation means, and I would not put that out there on a sign because nobody'd show up. Some of you that came like, oh, I'll show up to CSL today. If I'd said, come in and be radically changed, I don't know. Like in what way? You know? Radically changed. Transformation means radically changed. Radically changed. We're not being radically changed. We're becoming more of ourself when we evolve spiritually. We're becoming more of what we were in the beginning. We are living our potential. In the Gospel according to Thomas, the disciples were saying, well, so who's going to be first? Where are we going? We're all going to die. Where are we going? And what's it going to be like? And tell me what it's going to be like. And he said, if you knew the beginning, you'd know the end. We're going to end up where we started from. We are light. I'm so grateful that song was sung. We are light. You are light. We were light. I've taken people back to pre-incarnation. And their light and their love and their truth and they're all these glorious things. That's what we came out of. That's what we're going into. But we don't have to die to get there. We evolve spiritually to become more and more and more of that light, that truth, and that love. And that's not us changing. That's us dropping the stuff that kept us from sharing that in the world. That's all it is. You know that we've heard so many stories about butterflies and caterpillars, and haven't you? Transformation's all about the caterpillar becoming a butterfly. It didn't transform. It just became what it was always meant to be. It was fulfilling its potential as a product of evolution. We're just going to fulfill our potential. Because if I think I've got to transform, there's a part of me that thinks, what do I have to do to change? According to Dr. Lisa Miller, according to Charles Johnson, and according to David R. Hawkins, we don't do anything to change. We just do something, so we've got our attention on something, and then God does the rest. Grace lifts us up. Spiritual evolution is not the consequence of knowing more stuff. That's the information age. Although I'm sure there's plenty of books in our bookstore downstairs that could help you know more stuff. But honestly, how many of you have read the books? Ernest Holmes said, I would much rather people do what I'm teaching than read all the books. He also said too many people are overread and underdone. I mean, I read books because they feed me. The consciousness of the person that wrote the book is transmitted and I'm fed. But I'm not reading it to know more. We are not transformed, we're not helped in this evolutionary process by knowing more truth, but the willingness to be the truth itself. Consciousness age, not information age, even in church. So, our wonderful David R. Hawkins said another way to enlightenment, I'm sorry, not another way, another delay, because let's talk about what keeps us from evolving. He says one of the delays is the supposition that one must master and assimilate vast amounts of spiritual information in order to achieve spiritual success. How many of you have ever thought that once in a long time ago? Well, there's plenty of people thinking it because there's plenty of advertisements for that. Spiritual libraries usually contain hundreds of books, in addition to which there's endless workshops, training groups, and diverse ways for you to study theology, metaphysics, philosophy, religious history, and the like. While valuable information does arise along the way, it often ends up being more of a hindrance than an influence for good, because it can reinforce spiritual pride and the self-delusion of, I already know that. Yeah. How many of you have been talking about your spiritual life and then someone else goes and quotes a guru they have? You know, they quote somebody else. Oh yeah, well I heard so-and-so say, you know, we're just batting around information. What he says is to cut through the complexity, this is David R. Hawkins, to cut through the complexity, it's really only necessary to know and apply a few simple spiritual tools. Yay! Do the tool. Ernest Holmes said, too many people are overread and underdone. So I'm going to give you some spiritual tools that are easy, easy, easy. Yay! Everybody say yay. Yay. All right, cool. First of all, you know this, you've heard this, and it's so powerful, it's gratitude. There are books and books and books written on gratitude. We have one down in our bookstore by Mae McCarthy, who actually used gratitude to do amazing things. It just, whew. Gratitude shifts our perspective. I want to shift to perspective. I woke up one day, and it's Thursday. Thursday, I do all my household stuff. I woke up on a Thursday, and all of a sudden, I was hit with gratitude that I have a washing machine. Remember laundromats? Laundromats were a step up from the way my grandmother did laundry. I'm grateful that I just put stuff in a tube and add soap and close the door and push buttons. And it's done. I had to do dishes. I mean, oh, Kathianne, you have to do dishes, which is put some dishes in a box. And then close the box and push the buttons. Oh, sweet baby. You know, I'm so grateful. Really. You know, I've heard of practices where you say your gratitudes before you go to bed. No, how about in the morning? Because gratitude shifts the day. It has that much power. Now, who can do this? Okay. I don't think so. I see something, but not complicated enough. Okay, here. Wait, just. Okay, you want complication? Be authentic. Yay. Studies have shown that people vibrate, not for very long because it's hard. Most of the time we're not authentic. We're who we think we're supposed to be. People that are authentic are very high on this consciousness scale. Now, it's not that they're there all the time, but when they've shown that the energy given off by a person that's in love, they can monitor that now, is pretty intense. But an authentic person who can actually get into real authenticity, doesn't last long. But in that authentic moment, they give off 40 times as amount of energy that love does. We are really holding back, brothers and sisters. So that means if you're cranky, you're cranky. Who's ever been cranky? If you're mad, you're mad. If you're worried, you're worried. And say it to yourself. I'm cranky. I'm worried. I'm ticked off. Don't add guilt to that. I will take a little crankiness with a big heaping of guilt because I'm doing it. That's not a good recipe for health. You can be all those things, but know also you don't have to stay in those things. According to David R. Hawkins, one of the things that helps you get through being authentic but not being stuck is to just say it, notice it, and breathe. See it, notice it, and breathe. Also studies, people that study just how the body is working, when you have one of those emotions, if you don't keep it by analyzing, thinking about it, where did this come from, why am I feeling this, who should I blame? If you don't get your mind involved, emotions and feelings like that only last 40 seconds. 40 seconds. But you know why they last longer? I'm anxious. I wonder what I'm anxious about. Oh my goodness, I shouldn't be anxious. I'm a spiritual person. Oh dear, what have I done wrong? What if there is no God? I mean, I know there's no, I thought I was a God, but now there's not any. Oh no. I actually know someone who's questioning God right now because they can't get over their anxiety that they think about all the time. Also, be authentic with your successes, your triumphs, your gifts, and your skills, spiritual people. Oh. Some of you are rock stars. In some area of your life, own it. Yes, you may know that it's the God in you and as you that did the work, but you're still on the front line. Still, God is working through you. God is working. Because of God, this happened. But own what happened. Does that make sense? Yeah. Have you been around people that are like, oh, it's not a big deal? Be authentic. You were part of this. Number 3, use your intentions and your motivations to bless and guide what you do. Because there are going to be times you're up against things you don't know how to do it. How many of that happen? Like every day. Like, I don't know how to evolve. How many of you have a conversation you need to have next week and you don't know how to have it? Oh, only 3 of you. You should have seen first service. I'm telling you, they're big into conversation next week. I mean, we're always going to be growing and having situations that we're not really familiar with how to have because we haven't done them before, or the last time we did them, it wasn't so hot. But I've learned that if my motive is good and my intention is right, I let that lead me. And the motive will bless the outcome, not the skill level. Not the skill level. I do this with classes. There are times I will get done with a class or even a Sunday service and go, oh, God, oof, wasn't my best. But I know that I wanted it to be good. I know I wanted you to show up. I'm having my conversation with God in my car as I drive home, so you bless it. Motivation is more powerful than skill level. Intention is more powerful than skill level. And you can always shift that. Listen, number 5, listen more to Spirit than authorities. I mean, I've had doctors tell me things. And then when I listen to Spirit, I follow Spirit. And so please be neutral. Don't just go, doctors don't know anything. I mean, sometimes I follow doctors. It all depends upon who the final authority is, and in my life, the final authority is God. Now that's a spiritual practice in and of itself. Because how many of you would really, really, really like to have somebody show up and tell you what to do and what's going to happen and what your future is? For all of you that do the tarot cards, have psychic readings. Only the people in the back are raising their hand. Okay. I mean, I love it. I understand. I really do wish that somebody do that for me. I really do. I really do. It would be wonderful. But what I've noticed is I still have to listen to me. Not me, little me, but the me that's me. That's what I have to listen to. And then, this is for those of you that thought that, gratitude was too easy. The last prayer, I'm going to say prayer. The last spiritual practice that I encourage you to participate in is pray for others, especially folks you don't like. See, whatever you pray for comes back to you, pressed down, running and over. What you want for others, you're going to get yourself. It's just kind of the way it is. Oh, I know. Isn't it fun? It really is great. It really does. If spiritual practice makes your brain strong, this is going to make your brain really strong. A really strong brain and an open heart. So let's just take a moment. And let the Spirit of God reveal to us just a bit of what we came from. That we came from light, we came from love. And then we took a personality and a body and a history, but we are still light. And so if you choose, pray something like this. Father, Mother, God within, let the light in me see the light in all creation. May I see the light that I come from, coming out of all creation. Those things I love and those things I don't. Open my eyes that I may see as Spirit sees. Hear as Spirit sees. Knows. Hear as Spirit hears and knows as Spirit knows. Reveal to me the beautiful hidden kingdom through which I walk. And so it is.